Hey, what's up, Vincent? How's it going?
Man, chilling. Pretty good.
Sounds good, bro. Sounds good, man. How's your weekend been? Cool?
Pretty cool.
Good to hear, man. With all this COVID going on, seems like it's a mixed bag for everyone. So let's get all my charts ready. All right, cool. So do you have any questions, like specifically, or do you want to go over anything? I'm not sure like where your questions are right now. So depending on what you want to go over, we can go over anything.
All right. So basically, the first, like, the major question I have is I know how to use the K² SR indicator, but how do you once you do that, how do you know which zones are good buy zones or good sell zones?
So the zones are mostly used for rejection. They're not really used to identify, when to buy or when to sell. They're just meant to give you, a good understanding where not to buy and where not to sell. They're not based off, rejections. You could trade them like that. Like some people use them as rejection points for like break and retest strategy if you want to do that. But me personally, I don't use it for that way. Here, I'll just show you how I do it on here. So I'll just pull up K2SRs right here, and then I'll just draw up these zones so you can see, where the zones are. So basically, I'll go over here and then I'll go and draw my own zones over them. And then I'll just show you examples of how like other people use them, because there's a lot of ways to use them. There's not just one way. But me personally, I just stick to the same strategies that I always use, the K2 strategies. But there's a ton of ways to use it. There's not just one way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I see it. That does make sense.
Yeah, because the thing is, like what you were saying, you could use that. But, like, there's a lot of people that use it just for that. So you can see right here, price breaks the zone, comes back down. It's a break, retest, and then it shoots back up. In that situation, you could take a buy. And then if you also add in the K2 momentum indicator, that gives you like a perfect entry right here. See that? So you can see price breaks, it retests, and then it shoots back up, gives you this buy signal right here. So if you took that buy signal, I can just replay it back to right here just so you can see when it actually happened. So you can see right here, price broke it, retested, and then shot back up. Then you got that buy signal. If you were to take that trade right there, you could have just rolled that up like that, the TP right there for like 60 to 100 pips in between, depending on how you wanted to take that. Same situation right here. You can see price broke this structure right here, came back down, and then this was a false signal, so you wouldn't have taken that. But if it came back down a second time right here, and you got a buy signal, same situation again. You could have applied that same strategy to break and retest, and then you could have rolled that up. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of ways. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to apply it. I mean, it just really depends on how you want to trade it, because there's no one way to trade. I give you guys a foundation, give you guys the indicators, but it's really up to you how you want to trade it. But if you do want to use that strategy, it does work.
Yeah. So true that.
Yeah. So if you wanted to use that, that'd probably be closer to the K2SR zone strategy. I don't know if you took a look at that yet, but that's kind of similar to this strategy. Like basically the way that you were looking at it, you were looking at it from a break and retest. But for me, I wait for that break and retest, and then I wait for the signal because I want that extra confirmation. Although you don't have to wait for that signal, but I'm just saying, like, if you take it when they give you the signal, you have like that 100% confirmation that it's going to go in that direction.
All right. So on a break and retest, how would you know which candle to go trade in, get a good entry spot on? Because
Yeah.
essentially I've seen on most charts where it'll have a wick rejection in one zone, but it'll keep going down, or vice versa.
Yeah. So for me, I wait, like my catalyst for every trade is a signal. If I don't get a buy or sell signal, I don't take a trade. I don't just take, any random break and retest. Like you were saying, like right here, you can see like, there's kind of exactly what you just mentioned. So if I take off the K2 indicator, the momentum indicator, you can see right here, it broke, it retested, and then you saw that nice wick right there, and it was a bullish candle, but then it kept coming down. So, you kind of don't want to get caught in something like that. That's why I don't just take a trade after a break and retest. I wait for an actual signal to appear, like this right here. Yeah, like this signal right here. Because I see the break and retest, but I want that full confirmation. So I wait a little longer. And although I missed,
Yeah.
you probably could have entered right here and made it extra, like more pay. But I'd rather be for sure than, take a risky trade right here. Because this could have went the total opposite way. Like when this came down like this, there's no guarantee that it was going to bounce off and shoot up. This could have easily broke below and came back down and retested this right here. So
Right.
it's really it's really how much, it depends on how much risk you want to take. Like if you want to be super accurate, then enter the trade late, but at least you get that signal for the full confirmation right here. Versus just taking the trade right here and then you're kind of taking a 50% chance.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and this works pretty much all throughout. Like you can see right here too, like we like you don't have to wait for that specific signal. Like what you could do also, like if you're applying the K2SR strategy, basically what you want to do is you want to wait for price to break a zone. So the difference with the K2SR strategy is that instead of waiting for the break and retest, you're just waiting for it to break and close. So right here we got a buy signal, and then in this situation we're only going to take buys because momentum's going up. So once this breaks the zone right here, like it did right there, and it closed above it, then this would provide for an entry right here. So instead of waiting for the retest, you could have entered right here, and then you could have rolled that up to TP right there. Because the thing is, if you waited for it to retest down here, you would have missed out on this TP you could have taken already.
True that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of ways to apply. I mean, it really depends on, you just got to keep practicing and see what fits you best. Because the thing is, if this doesn't work for you, then you could always do the break and retest. Because if you check this out right here, you would have missed this trade right here. But if you waited for this break and retest and then the confirmation right here of like the bullish candle, you could have entered right here as well, and you still would have hit TP regardless. So it just really depends on you. So if the strategy doesn't fit you, you don't need to force it. Like just figure out what you like to do, and then you can tailor the strategy and the indicators to your own liking, to how you want to take it. Because the problem with a lot of traders is they learn one way, and it's hard for them to change that thought process. Once they learn one way, they're kind of stuck trading that way. They don't want to go and do something else. So if it doesn't work for you, you can always apply it differently.
Facts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, that's the reason with a lot of traders why they don't do well, because they're stuck in their own ways and they don't want to change it, but they don't incorporate new ideas to making their trading strategy better. Because a lot of people, they use the K2 indicators and they use it for their own strategies. Like they don't follow my strategies exactly, even though they work. But some people they can't get past that hump to learn something new because they're so stuck to one type of trading strategy, and that's completely fine. It's all psychology really. It's like if you can't force yourself to think differently, you might as well just change the way that you're already doing it in slight ways just to make it better, because that's just how it is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, if you wanted to do the break and retest strategy that you were just talking about, that works perfectly fine. But if you want the extra confirmation, you could just wait for a signal. Like right here, we had a buy signal. It's pretty much a break and retest because it broke down here. It came above and you got that buy signal. So you could have taken the buy right there. And then same situation, you could have taken a profit here as well.
I never thought about using it that way. That makes a lot more sense though.
Yeah, because that's you just have to kind of use different strategies and then put different confirmations together. Because a lot of people like to do break and retest. So if you do a break and retest right here, price breaks it, retest, and then the buy signal here is way too far off. So obviously you wouldn't take this trade because it's stuck in another zone right here. What happens usually when it gets to another zone, it'll probably reject off like it did right here. Same situation when it comes back down. Like when it's in a consolidation phase, it'll pretty much just bounce in between the zone up and down until it breaks above it or breaks below it. So if you keep following this through, You can see right here, it broke and retest right here. So as we got to this point over here, let's see if we got a buy signal somewhere over here. Looks like it's not showing up. Yeah, same situation right here. Like, if you want to do the break and retest, instead of you just guessing for, when to make that entry, you could have waited for the buy signal, and you could have taken that right here, and then pretty much right back into same situation. I mean, it's same thing, same, like, it doesn't matter, what you traded on. If you traded on indices, Forex, gold, it doesn't really matter, because it's pretty much the same thing. As long as there's, momentum in the market's actually moving, you can apply the strategy, because you have an edge, because you understand, the direction of momentum when you get these buy sell signals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you want to add another thing to it, you can add the K2 pivots. And this gives you like super confirmation, because in this situation, you can identify the trend. So if you're doing break and retest, obviously you only want to trade in the direction of the trend. So you see this, price breaks above, retest, and then a buy signal right here. You could have taken that entry too. Like, you can see that this entry right here actually falls under a ton of different K2 strategies. So this would be an entry for a K2 pivot strategy. This would be an entry for the K2 SR strategy. This would be an entry for the intraday strategy. You can see right here, it's green and green, right? So they match up. So this entry right here is actually a really good entry, because you can see that it conforms like four or five different strategies. It's the same exact entry. So that could give you like even more confirmation. But I mean, that's a little more advanced. Once you get really good at all the strategies, you'll be able to spot this easily. You'll be like, all right, this is the pivot entry. This is also an SR entry, and it's also an intraday entry as well. So, you got like 3 different really good entries that line up. So if you were to see this, you could have doubled up, you could have over leveraged on this trade, and you could have made a lot of money off this, because obviously you knew it was going to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it, bro. There's not just one way. Like I said earlier, there's the more you practice, the more you like start to see patterns in the chart. It'll be easy for you to spot things like this. But like I mentioned, it's really up to like your trading strategy. If you like to trade break and retest, I would just focus on that, and then add little things to make it better. And once you keep adding little things, it'll add up to become a super strategy, basically, because you're basically putting all these different ideas into your initial idea, and then it gives you all these extra confirmations, so that it gives you better opportunity and a better win rate, in essence.
Yeah. Do you have like a specific way you trade with news, or like when news drops, like do you even like risk that?
Oh, what do you mean, like when something like this happens?
Oh no, so like when if it's like if it's like news on a specific like USD, if that has like bad news, like would you recommend trading with that, or
Oh, no,
like
no. I never trade on news, because the thing with news is it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad news. It just really depends on, where they want to put the market, because there's a lot of times where the news has been bad, but the market is the complete opposite. And that's why I don't trade during news, because the news is it's basically all manipulation, because the thing is, everyone's looking for the same thing. So if you, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the IG sentiment. So if you, let me just look this up right here, IG sentiment. So like basically, when news is happening, what the banks do, they go on IG, they go and they see where all the traders are. So if there's a lot of people selling, like if they're short, and if the news is good or bad, doesn't really matter. They're gonna spike price in the opposite direction, because in that situation, they get to stop everyone out. They get to take everyone's money. So
oh that's
then what
crazy.
exactly? Because you can see exactly where everyone's trading. Like right here, this is Euro USD. There's 55% of people short. So the thing is, if the news is say the news is it's bad, right? So it's bad, but there's a whole bunch of people short. What they'll do is they'll spike price down really hard, and then they'll shoot it right back up to where it's supposed to go. And I'm sure you've seen that before. Like you see, when
Yeah.
news, they drop price really quick to stop everyone out. because everyone gets stopped out of the positions and then they shoot it right back up. And that's how they make their money. And that's why I never recommend trading news. Like a lot of people like to trade news, but literally that's straight gambling. Like, it's a 50-50 chance whether you're on the right side or you're on the wrong side. But when I did trade news, I would always do the opposite. So say if there was news and there was 55% people short, I would go opposite. I would buy. And then, it was still a 50-50% chance because you weren't really sure if like it was going to go in your direction or not. But then if it did, you would hit big. If not, then you take your loss. But the problem with that, yeah, the problem with that too is if you're using an unregulated broker like Hugo's Way or KOT or something like that, they're like known for slippage. So I'm not sure if you witnessed slippage before, and that's where price goes through your stop loss. So when news is happening and price is shooting around too fast, price might pass your stop loss and it won't trigger it, and then you end up going to like crazy drawdown until your account goes into negative. So that's like another reason why I don't recommend trading during news.
Very effectively, 75 yards, and now Dallas is up by 1. So tomorrow night,
that's wild.
Trade. So that's why I just recommend that you probably just don't trade during news. I mean, you can if you want, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be a gamble. Like you could never really predict news because the people that control price movement during news are like the banks and institutions, and they're not going to let you know which direction they're pushing it. They might mess around. They might push price down and then they'll push it up, and then they'll push it right back down because they'll want to hit people both ways. Because the thing that I just explained to you, a lot of people understand that too, that it's all psychology. So they try to take the system. But the system's not always going to give you, they're not going to make it easy on you, obviously.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's why for me, I don't like trading during like in these zones. Like a lot of people like to trade like the same strategy you're talking about, the break and retest. The problem with that strategy is that a lot of the banks, institutions, they know that other people are looking for that too. So they try to sucker people in. Like you'll see stuff like this where so you can see price broke below, it retested and it came back down. But the thing is we didn't get a sell signal, so we wouldn't have taken this trade, right? But if you were to take this trade right here, you probably would have gone screwed because let me show you. Because obviously, if you look at this right here, it looks like price is going to come down. Obviously, because it's in a downtrend, right? So you see this break, you see price breaking, retest it, come down. And then if you didn't have the K2 indicators, because there's no sell signal here, so you wouldn't have taken that. But if you didn't have the indicators, normal trader would have just been like, all right, cool, we got this confirmation right here, so I'm going to take that sell. But what happens? They try to trick you right here. They're like, all right, I'll like make it come down a little bit to make it seem like it's coming down in the direction of the trend. But what happens right after? They spike it right back up and they stop you out. And then people wonder like, how does this even happen? But it's all psychology. It's like you can't fall for the tricks.
Right.
Yeah. Because the thing is, the banks and the institutions know what you're doing. This is why I don't like price action, because everyone trades price action. If you trade the same way everyone else is trading, you're going to lose because majority of people lose at trading because they all trade the same thing. That's why, like for me, whenever people try to, talk about price action like it's the best thing ever, it's the best thing ever when it's working. But when you get into like situations like this, with that, which happen more often than not, you're gonna blow your account if this keeps happening. And that's why, exactly, and that's why you got to trade a little differently. Like I was saying, if you could put in different types of strategies, like you could put in my momentum strategy with your break and retest strategy with price action strategy, then you have all these confirmations where you're like, all right, all these line up, so there's no way that the market could be messing with me right now. But if you just stick to one thing, like you're only doing break and retest, you're only doing price action, you're only doing momentum, in that situation you kind of get skewed. You kind of think your strategy is working, but when you least expect it, the market comes and does the complete opposite on you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, bro. I mean, it took me a long time to actually realize this. I've been trading for a while, so that's why I was able to see this, because I've been through the market like so many years where I've seen it happen to me, and I'm like, why does this even happen? And then it all started to make sense once I started putting different strategies together. And that's pretty much what the K2 indicators do. You know, they cover pretty much everything. Like the pivots will cover, you know, the trend, and then the trend meter covers the trend. And then on top of that, you've got the K2 SRs, you know, like where market structure is. And then lastly, on top of that, you also have the K2 momentum indicator. So, you know, you have so many confirmations there that give you pretty much all aspects of trading for the most part.
That's not bad.
Yeah, so like if you're able to like understand all the indicators and you're able to use them all together, I usually don't put them all on the chart because they kind of confuse people because, you know, not everyone knows what they do as well as I do. But once you're able to put everything together, you kind of tie stuff together like this right here. You can see it's an obvious entry. Or like really, there's a ton of different ways to trade it. But once you get the hang of everything, you'll be able to put like, it's like a puzzle piece basically. Like you're basically putting all these puzzle pieces together to understand how the market's moving at that time.
Right. What would you say like the best like time frame to trade on is?
Me personally, I think the 4 hour is the best one. You're not going to see crazy results right away, but you're going to see a lot more accuracy. And the real key in trading is, you know, a lot of people think it's to make a lot of profit really quick, but the real key is to not lose. Like if you can cut out losses, your profits will just keep adding up over time. You know, it's not all about making big wins all the time. It's more about, you know, taking a trade and then eliminating your risk. So on the 4 hour chart, the thing with the 4 hour chart is that it crosses over into so many sessions. So like if you're on the 30-minute, you're going to be focusing on just like one little session, or, you know, you might be in a buy and then price goes and spikes the other direction and you get screwed. But if you're on the 4 hour, it's kind of harder for it to really reach the swing. So if you were to take a sell right here, so like if you were to take a sell right here, far out where you wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be hitting that right away. But if you were trading on a shorter time frame, you know, odds are the swing's probably going to be too close. And you probably would have stopped out somewhere, you know, around here, depending on where you're interested. Yeah. So me personally, I think 4 hour is good overall. But if you want to scalp, then you could go on the 10-minute. But I would base all of your analysis and zones and pretty much everything that you put together before making an entry will be best to be done on the 4 hour. So you can do your analysis on the 4 hour, but then once you have an analysis, you can drop down to the 30-minute if you want to trade intraday, or you can drop down to like the 10-minute if you want to scalp. You know what I'm saying there?
Just bad, terrible turnover, and it's hard to win. Turn the ball over like that. So that's honestly, I got to do a lot better job. Today was weird. No fans in the stands and Brady not in the Patriots colors. You went up against Tom thousands of times, it felt like. What can us in Washington today is about? Well, one always stood out to me coaching against him was the precision, the chemistry, the timing. That wasn't there today with these receivers. They need work on that, but that'll come.
All right, yeah.
This is not the Tom Brady offense.
Yeah, bro. But yeah, for sure, like I think the 4 hours is probably gonna be the best time for you to trade on. I mean, if you can, but it's kind of hard for you to trade if you're not patient. 4 hour takes a lot of patience versus trading on the shorter time frames.
All right, and then so I know this like a little bit, but I'm not really good with like the time zones. But like, I know you got like the London session, the Asian, and then, but like, what pairs move like best than what sessions?
Well, the pairs that are related to the specific session would definitely they have higher volatility, obviously. So if you're trading during the U.S. session, then pretty much all the U.S. pairs would move faster than say like the odd CHF pair, because the odd CHF pair doesn't really cross over unless you're trading like early morning when the London session is still open. So I mean, if you're trading on the 4 hour chart, the sessions don't really matter because you're going to be holding on to that trade for a while. The only time the session will really matter is if you're scalping, because you're going to be, you're going to be trading within like, a 4 to 8 hour time frame where the market's open. But if you're trading on the higher time frame, the sessions don't really matter at all. So it just really depends on what you plan on, like, what time frame you plan on trading on, because it does work on the 30-minute too. But then again, it's still going to move, like you don't see price moving like crazy enough for you to hit a TP. So let me just look for an example here. So we'll go like on the 30-minute, and we'll go to like 6 a.m. Like even if you took this trade right here for a buy, about 40 pips, you still wouldn't reach full TP until like the market closed right here. So technically you're only in this trade for about, March open at 5:30. So the market was open right here for about for 8 hours. But technically you're only in this trade for about 4 hours, like half that time. So even if you're on the 30-minute chart, it doesn't move enough for you to really make any big movements. You get what I'm saying? So that's why like it like the whole time zone thing doesn't really matter unless you're trading like on the 10-minute. So say we go on the 10-minute, right? We go on the 10-minute chart, and then you're over here scalping because the market opens here like at 5, and then you take this entry right here. You can hit full TP in about 30 minutes. So that's like where the huge difference happens. So if you're scalping, then yeah, the session would matter. So obviously if you're trading, the Euro USD, you only want to trade this from like midnight until about 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time, because that's when the London session's open and the US session. Because if you're trading this during Asia, like right here, you can see that this thing barely even moves. Like this is Asia session right here. You can see that it pretty much just goes sideways for the whole day. Versus if you're trading during London or US session over here, you can see it's like huge movements. So it just really depends on what time frame you're trading on. But if you're trading on anything less than the 30, then there's really no point for you to really focus on how it moves. Because the problem with you holding trades like that on the 30-minute is that you might be holding a trade during US session, and then at 2 o'clock there's like Australia news, and Australia is a big major currency. So like if that happens, it could screw with the market. Like it could push the market in the opposite direction. So it just, there's no point in holding it into another session if you're trading it on the 30-minute or something over that.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different, like I was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of ways to trade it, like depending on, if you could find your specific trading strategy, then I could help you tailor it better. Like if you like to trade shorter term, then you could probably, trade different way. But if you're trading on like how I do intraday on the 4 hour, and, this, a break and retest strategy like works perfectly. Like you can see right here, there's so many entries that happen throughout like this entire month and last month. And it's the same strategy that works for pretty much any pair. Like you can literally go to any pair and you can see that actually works. So if I go here, I turn all this stuff off, like we could literally go down the line and you can see that there is a bunch of break and retest entries right here. Like you can see, break and retest, or if you're just doing the break with the momentum candle, you can literally just take all these trades pretty much. And it works for every pair. Like you don't have to just focus on one pair. You can literally follow any pair and you can get the same strategy applied across the 4 hour chart. So you can see here, there's like entries all over the place. Same strategy.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it just really depends. You got to figure out what you like to do, And then once you figure that out, then you can, you can make changes that way. Because the thing, like I said earlier, you don't want to force yourself to trade a way that you don't like to trade. Because if you do that, you'll never really learn. But just keep looking for excuses to go back to your old way of trading when you should have just stuck that way and made little changes to make it better.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so like once you figure that out, I mean, we get another call and then we could, go over. I could help you more specifically with how to like make your strategy better. But I think right now, I think you should probably just focus on like what you like to do, because I trade a specific way, but that doesn't mean that it'll work for you. Because if you don't have the patience that I do, then you're just gonna take a lot of, you're gonna overtrade and you're gonna take issues that don't fit the requirements, and it's just not gonna end well. So I think it's best for you to figure out the way you like to trade first, and then once you do that, then we can get on another call and we can figure out how to make that better, or we can figure out like where your issues are. Because generally when you lose a trade, you should look back at it and you should ask yourself like, why did this go wrong? If you can't figure out why it went wrong, then you probably have to go back and reanalyze it, because there's always a reason why something went wrong. Like it could have been news, it could have been you were trading in the wrong direction of the trend. It looks like their momentum could have been in the other direction. There's a ton of different reasons. But if you can like put all those together and figure out what I did wrong, then you can go back and make sure that you don't make that mistake the second time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about trial and error. That's how I created the K2 strategy. Like for the K2 strategy, I started off with like the basic strategy. And then every time I figured out something that was wrong with it, I would add a new indicator, or I would do something different to make that better. And, that's how we have such a high win rate, because I'm always working around the clock. Like whenever I see something wrong with it, with the strategy, I'll make a change to it. And then I'll update the strategy so that everyone could follow that as well. Because the market's always changing. A lot of people like to trade price action, but they don't realize that the market's not always going to be the same. Like people think that price action will work all the time, but the market's not always going to move in the same direction. So you really got to adapt to the market conditions every time, like pretty much every time it changes.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing game, bro. Like trading, that you never get, whenever you're good at trading, you turn around and like the next day, it's like, what the fuck happened? Like the market's totally different, and that's just how it is. I mean, it's like solving a new puzzle every single day. But if you get good at it, it'll be easy for you to spot those differences. Like for me, when COVID happened, a lot of people are tripping out. A lot of like trading companies started flopping, and nobody was able to, produce results. But for me, I was on the charts every single day trying to figure out what could I do better. And that's how K2 is able to survive through all that. And that's how we're still thriving every day.
Yeah. That's all I got for right now as far as the questions. But I'll start testing these strategies out, and then whichever ones that I feel most comfortable with, I'm gonna use those for sure, and then get back on another call with you for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's probably the best option for you. You just got to figure out what fits you, and then once we figure out what fits you, then we could tailor a plan together to figure out how to best maximize your profits and how to like maximize your trading potential that way. Because there's always a way to make your strategy better. Like there's never a time where you're like, all right, I'm done with this and I'm good, because there's always going to be different things happening, and there's always going to be other confirmation that you can use to make it better. But I think, yeah, overall, I think you're pretty much on the right track. The fact that you like the break and retest strategy works pretty good, because you can use that with the other indicators I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. So yeah, this will be on YouTube if you want to like look at it later. It'll be under the mentoring session videos that are
Oh,
saved.
for real?
Yeah, you gotta be on there. So if
Oh,
you
that's
ever want
lit.
to,
That's lit.
yeah, because I know like we went through this pretty quick, and I was kind of talking a little fast. So if you ever want to go back, just look up the date. Today's the 13th, so it's actually live right now. So if you want to go back and look at it right after this, you can go ahead. And then if you have more questions, we can always hop back on. Like, I always make time if there's availability. Like people usually book pretty ahead of time, but you got lucky because you like hit me up on a Sunday where it wasn't too busy. So I was able to get on with you today.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like, the next time you have any other questions, like always feel free. Cause like my goal is to make sure everyone's profitable. Like that's the main thing between, us and everyone we pay too. It's like, everyone needs to like, there isn't enough profits to go around. Like I'm not the only one that needs to profit. Like literally everybody can profit with me. And we're all using the same strategy. So it doesn't really make a difference.
True that. True that.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. All right, cool. So, I'll send you the link once this is done. And then, once it's uploaded and stuff, you can take a look at it. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And then once you go over all the strategies, we can, get on another call and then we can see what we can do better from there.
That works. That works.
All right, cool. So you have any other questions before we get off?
That's it. That's it.
All right, bro. Sounds good. All right, man. I'll send you this link shortly.
Yes, sir.
All right, bro. Talk to you later.
Yeah.